Food and Beverage Magazine Live, bringing food and beverage to life. With your hosts, James Beard Award winner Jennifer English and Food and Beverage Magazine publisher Michael Politz. Featuring leaders in the hospitality, branded food and beverage, and CPG industries, many of whom are Jennifer and Michael's friends in the business. For an informal and informative conversation where friends in the business share the latest intel, ideas, and best practices. Live, juicy inside scoop from the tastemakers, newsmakers, bread bakers, drink shakers, spoon lickers, clam diggers, farms, foodies, and friends of the Food and Beverage Magazine World. Here are your hosts, Jennifer English and Michael Politz.
Hi, kids.
How's that smile?
We're ready to go.
Good.
We had such a, first of all, it's been an amazing week.
Wait, I want to do that smile again.
We have a really, really amazing show today because we have phenomenal guests who've done extraordinary things. We're going into our Memorial Day weekend, and we've got really good friends in the business joining us, and we're glad you're here. How are you holding up? Because there's a lot of shifting sand under our feet in this business.
Well, I will tell you that the sand is shifting again. Oh, see how quick that moves?
Whoops.
I had a very interesting conversation today with a very large brand of, let's just say, a very large syrup maker. But there's also, they're a big soda pop company. And we're trying to work on an initiative together. I don't want to say the name until I have a signed contract. I don't want to stealing my ideas. To basically help the restaurant owners, restart, right?
Yeah.
Restart from the pandemic. And it's very scary. They've been out for 2-3 months almost. They don't know whether they're going to be able to pay their rent. They don't know if someone's going to walk through the door, right? I'm visualizing. I'm seeing what's going to happen. I don't know whether I'm right or I'm wrong, but I'm hoping they can succeed from this nonsense, right?
Right.
I think that, and part of my conversation was, hey, when they first came up with their restaurant concepts, they had a spark inside of them, Jen, a spark, right? Like a flame. You know what a spark is, honey? It like ignites you, right?
Well, it makes you fearless.
It makes you fearless, but it also says, hey, when you're thinking about opening a restaurant, everyone's coming at you going, oh my God, do you know how to make $1 million in a restaurant? Start with 10 million, right? Same thing Andy Cobb said to us, right? So everybody's sort of coming at them, but this spark and this fearlessness is dissolving and puffing all these negative away, right? And they're focused on opening their restaurant, right? I want to try to figure out a way to bring that spark back up to them because they're going to need it now.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to need it now. And I don't think I see a lot of other media outlets and, I don't mind bashing them because that's who we are. When you're the biggest and the best, you don't have to, Jennifer, but I will.
Anybody, come on.
I don't like the fact that, okay, you can pay me to do a webinar to give information out to help someone's business. I don't like it. Right. Information should flow. It should be flowing information to the restaurant owner to help them.
Because we didn't invent anything. We're just putting it all together.
We're putting it all together. We're talking to great people like our guests today, our guests yesterday. We're learning. Everybody's learning right now. There is no expert in this. I don't care what anybody says. There is no expert in what's going on today, except maybe me.
I'm gonna argue with you slightly.
You can, because I'm the expert, and that's why. I wrote the book on opening a restaurant and how to succeed. Okay, go ahead.
If you listen to this show each day this week, you will have learned something really powerful and useful and valuable. But when we're talking about the reigniting of fearlessness in entrepreneurs, we go back to earlier in the week when we talked to the director of innovation for the Ocean Spray Corporation, who said that you have to be, and this was echoed by multiple guests this week. It was almost like a theme. We didn't direct the theme. We just set the table. We create the platform. We hold the space, and we invite people to come and say what they say. And when they come and they visit with us, that theme emerges as you look at the fullness of the week. And the theme was, you have got to be fearless in what you pursue about making mistakes and failing, because those aren't failures. They're just your lessons. Anyway, I don't want to make our guest wait.
I just want to say one more thing.
Okay.
because we're going to fight over the last word and I'm going to get it.
You
I always give it to you. That information should be free. And that information should flow, right? And we're learning, and that's why we're here, is to help with information and the flow of information for the benefit of their commerce. Now, go ahead and announce our next guest. Our first guest for today's show.
Right. So Maya Kamal is somebody who is well known in our industry. Previously, she had an extraordinary career in publications, and most famously in the photography that would grace covers of magazines like Savour. I miss Savour. In my career, I've had Coleman Andrews on so many times, regularly. One of the great storytellers, one of the rich narrative storytellers in the food space. But Maya Kamal is perhaps today most well known for being the namesake and founder of the Maya Kamal Foods Company. Creators and purveyors, manufacturers and distributors, teachers and delighters of foods that have a root in a tradition and an origin that dates back. I think we even have a picture of her with one of her aunties learning how to make some of those beautiful blends. The cuisine of India is such, there we go. The cuisine of India is such that we can talk about flavor chords and spices. And as you see, oh, there's her family with the Taj Mahal in the background. That's fantastic. So
now, Taj Mahal is also a singer, I believe, from Hawaii.
Yes.
I may be wrong. Go ahead.
All right.
Sorry, did I throw you off? Well, you know what? It's okay, because let's bring her on. Maya, come on.
Maya Kamal, how are you?
Thanks. Great, thank you.
She's joining us from her kitchens in upstate New York, where she oftentimes, I'm going to imagine, finds inspiration and does her own innovation. But as you can see from my name, it says Mrs. Spices. I love spices.
Yeah.
It's impossible to talk about Indian food without talking about spices. So we have a lot to talk about today. But welcome. Thanks for coming and being with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So talk about your company and how you went from being someone who had this as a culinary tradition to being somebody who became one of the leaders in the industry about bringing Indian food and flavors to life.
Well, so I guess it started for me because my father's from India, and I traveled there a lot. I grew up eating his versions of Indian food, and both my parents were great cooks, but it was this kind of experimenting that my dad was doing that really, like, it just kind of, became the food I most connected to. And so that ended up becoming the inspiration for doing some cookbooks that featured Indian, family recipes. And most of the recipes were from the southern part of India, which has a very different flavor profile from what you get in restaurants. That, people I think are starting to understand that there's regional differences, but they're very significant. And so if all you eat is restaurant food, then you only really know North Indian cooking. So I was tasting these things in my, home, and then eating in restaurants as a young professional in New York, and there was no kind of seeming connection. And that got me kind of going in, which started out as cookbooks and became like a way to show people there's more to the cuisine than what they might think, what they understood it to be. And then that sort of morphed into, writing a lot of articles and doing, being guests on TV shows and talking a lot about Indian food the way I was experiencing it. And then after working at Savour, I launched my business because the publishing industry was not really going well. And so,
what year did you launch Maya Kamal Foods?
It was 2003. So yeah, the landscape then was so different, right? There was not a lot on the Indian shelves. They were mostly imports. And I had a friend who owned a chain of Manhattan gourmet food stores called Gourmet Garage. His name's Andy Aarons. And he, and I met him through my husband, just gotten married. And he said, I love your food. Why don't you make some sauces for me? And, I'll sell them in my store. I'll be your first customer. And, it's like, oh.
How do you say no to that, though?
I was at that time I had a job, and it was like, I cannot figure that out. But then I lost my job. And then I was like, maybe that's a really good idea. And so, pivot to trying to understand what it meant to, get a manufacturer to turn my home recipes into, giant kettles of sauce. So that was, it took about a year to figure it out. And my husband was a big supporter. We had just had twins. So life was like utterly insane. But probably, if I launched the company, I probably wouldn't have had the babies. And if I had the babies first, I probably wouldn't have launched the company. So I think it's better that it just all happened in one like chaotic year. So
let's go back a step and say that you mentioned so humbly that you created cookbooks of family recipes. In fact, you were awarded the Julia Child Prize from the International Association of Culinary Professionals, the highest honor a book can earn. You even were with Julia when you won that prize. I think you mentioned it was 1997.
That's right.
There you are with the great lady herself. I love that. That gave you a lot of credibility in a category that had yet to really come to its full bloom. And while people treated certain ethnic cuisines, and I'm going to talk about being at an IACP conference, International Association of Culinary Professionals. In fact, there were several seminars over the years that have talked about the fact that culturally and cuisine-wise, we approach things like Chinese food or Mexican food or Indian food as a monolith,
Exactly.
when in fact, nothing could be further from the truth. And we began to learn, thanks to people like you and Coleman Andrews and the teams at Savour that went on these beautiful deep dives into the stories of regionality that highly differentiated the cuisine as we would come to know it, but had not yet met in our mouths yet.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I think people sort of figured out, there's a difference between Northern Italian food and Southern Italian food. But that was sort of as far as regional understanding of cuisine went. And there's just a massive education. I mean, China alone has these highly developed, very separate cuisines, and India too. But I mean, there's a lot to learn. And in India, is a hard place to get your arms around. And so I understand that it's taken a while for people to have a grasp on it, because there's just a lot going on in every region. And so parsing it, and seeing the differences and the nuances from one to another can be a challenge.
So having a global expert like yourself on with us is such a marvelous honor and wonderful opportunity for us all to learn. If it's not our native cuisine, if it's not our passion cuisine, what can you teach us sort of simply when you meet people who've never had an introduction to Indian food? How do you describe this beautiful, complex, delicious
bouquet of flavors? Can we say that? Bouquet of flavors? Yeah. I mean, I like Indian food, one of my favorite, and it's a bouquet of flavors.
I think that's a nice metaphor. Sometimes, art comes to mind, sort of a palette of colors that come together. Music is another metaphor. And music works the best for me, because I think of the spices as having different notes, and cumin and coriander like the base notes, and they really provide the foundation for curries. And then you start to layer on your woodwinds, and you get your turmeric and your cayenne and your black pepper. And then you have your high notes, which are your cinnamon, clove, cardamom, fennel, which kind of take you to these other places and are used in much smaller amounts. So, those all together, they come to create one flavor where you should not be able to say, oh, this has cinnamon in it. Like, it should become something all on its own.
Like a symphony.
Like a symphony, yes.
And it's funny that you say that, symphony, because I always say watching Jennifer interview people is like watching a symphony. Jennifer, how many times have I said that?
More than once. But what's really interesting is we talk often because there's something really harmonious about the notion of music and food having really common architecture and elements that really allow us to say things like chords of flavor, and people
I like that.
know what we're talking about. And one of the things is, as you know, I'm all about the spices. I've been in the spice business for a long time, and I used to have a spice store and did a lot with that. One of the beautiful things about spices that almost escapes the sort of, when you watch Food Network today, you see, but you didn't always, was the blooming of the spices.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit. That's one of the most fundamental aspects of Indian cuisine that, to me, I cheer for, because once you have those techniques, and there's simple techniques, it transforms food completely.
It does. And I think that Indians have really deeply explored how to get a lot of flavor out of spices. How you can pull different flavors out of the same spice, right? So blooming is that lovely technique where you're adding seeds often, mustard seeds, especially, or cumin seeds, but you add them to hot oil, and then they release their flavor. Mustard seeds pop and explode a little bit, and then all of a sudden they've added this kind of nutty, lovely flavor to the oil. And then you drop in, dried red chilies, which put in a little heat, and then fresh curry leaves, which go in and like crackle like crazy because they've got so much moisture in them, and release an amazing herby, kind of almost like citrusy fragrance, and also flavor that oil. So that's your beginning place for your curry. Then you're going to build everything on top of that beautiful oil.
Many of us are home with pantries that have spices, both old and new. And almost everybody will have elements of the core components of Indian cuisine without realizing we do. Yeah. Because it's not that there's something, such an exotic, rare ingredient. Okay, maybe I need fenugreek or something else. But by and large, talk a little bit about having maybe a little exploration this weekend, this Memorial Day weekend, in your own spice cupboard with the influences of your inspiration. What should we go for in our spice cabinet? What can we do with them?
So, well, of course, if you have mustard seeds, you can do that technique I just described, and you could pour it over, say, like a cauliflower puree soup or a potato leek soup or some just really nice basic soup. This will add a little finishing touch that brings a new dimension to it. But something like cumin seeds, right? They're lovely, and if you toast them and grind them, you can add them to beans, or and you don't even have to grind them. You could just toast them and add them to vegetables. I like to add them to potatoes when I roast them, right? Or carrots when I roast them. So, and then, turmeric is lovely. Everybody's kind of, overboard about it. But I think the key to turmeric is using it in small amounts, not these like teaspoonful that I see going into recipes. It's like, it's going to be really bitter. But if you just like, say you're sauteing like Swiss chard or any kind of nice green that's starting to come out in the markets now, I just drop like a little chili flake oil and a little turmeric and saute the greens. And it actually makes a more vibrant color green too. So
I love that. Let's talk about your line. When you decided you were going to go into production, did you have to find co-packers, or did you just start?
What's buzzing? Do you hear that buzzing, Jen?
I hear
Is that a phone? Someone's phone vibrating?
Someone's phone?
That's all right. All right, stop. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Jen. I just didn't want everyone to.
Yeah, no. Can you talk about starting the company up and going into production? And first of all, where can we find it today?
Yeah. Well, they're sold in Whole Foods. Our products are in Target, but we're in basically every natural food store. We're in Albertsons, Safeways. We're getting more and more distribution in mainstream stores. Hannaford's, Tops. I mean, I guess it depends on what Stop and Shop, ShopRite, so we're pretty widely available. And we're on Amazon, of course, too.
And you manufacture in one.
No, we have a bunch of different lines. I'm actually here in my test kitchen at the office. I didn't want my dog barking and my family running around, so I decided I'd come to my.
We wanted that, Maya. I have that right now. Every time I cut out, I'm changing a diaper or grabbing something from the front door. Everything is at once happening.
I guess that's kind of what life looks like now, but I just too distracting for me. So, so we started out with sauces. So the simmer sauces are made at one facility that, specializes in big steam jacket
liquids and jars and stuff.
Yeah. And then we do dals being like Indian cooked lentils, seasoned split peas or lentils or legumes. And those are like a really important part of Indian cuisine because they're a source of protein for a lot of vegetarians. And they go perfectly with rice. Rice and dal is like the rice and beans of India. So those are made in South Carolina. The sauces are made in Texas. I mean, each product line requires specific equipment, and so I can't use one to make everything that
right.
we use.
See, this is all fascinating because people are going to have to reimagine and reinvent our culinary world. And it could have been, I'm sure somebody said to you, this is complex, Maya. Why don't you just open a restaurant?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Michael's laughing. It's like, well,
thank God she didn't. I'm talking right now. Let's talk about that.
Well, I agree. I mean, and she looks so prescient in so many ways for doing this.
Yeah, gosh.
Can I say something about Indian restaurants?
Please.
Do you mind?
No.
I'm waiting for Jennifer. I want Jennifer to give me the green light because I love them. Right? I mean, I live in Las Vegas, but anywhere I go, I'll go to the Bombay Bicycle Club, or I'll go. I'm friends with a lot of the different guys that own these places, right? So I'll always stop in, always have a meal. I love it. I think, and if you think about it, what the Indian restaurant has done to the consumer across America, just by having the lunch buffets, it's funny because you sort of joke, everyone sort of, I go to the Indian restaurant and have a lunch buffet. But the reality is, whoever thought of that was genius, because they wouldn't know what to do when you go back for dinner. You wouldn't know what you like, and what's too hot, what you don't like. You go to a buffet, and my friend Satpal Kohli opened up a restaurant in the Rio. I can't remember what the name of it was. It was a fantastic, very world-famous Indian restaurant. And he even had a beautiful brunch. He actually did it on Sunday mornings as well. And at night, the place was packed. But I don't, and he agreed. We talked a lot about it. He's one of the owners of Yogi Tea. So he knows, and whoever just started this trend, right? I don't even know if it's a trend anymore. It was brilliant because it opens up the palates for everyone else to try. Because even if you're like, I don't like Indian food, I call bull BS on that, because there is something on that buffet that you tell me you don't like butter chicken or it's, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I know.
Masala, come on.
Great. I love that you said that, because I am a big believer in the buffet too. And it gets gets such a bad rep, but actually it's the way Indians eat, right? They have lots of different things going on the plate at one time. So things are served family style all the time.
Ethiopian as well. Have you been to an Ethiopian restaurant? It's the same thing, right? You go in and you get the big tray, and it's
wonderful.
I do it, Maya. I always say that the information coming out of Jennifer is like a buffet. There's so much information coming out of her all the time. Jennifer?
Maya, we joke that you never know who's going to be with us and you never know what's going to come out of their mouth. But I got to ask the two of you the hard question. I'm really curious. Michael, don't disappear on us. What's going to happen in this post-buffet world? I mean, in the pandemic, post-pandemic world, Maya, you've obviously got a really fantastic crystal ball. You got in all the right things for all the right reasons at just the right time. So I'm going to ask you, where are we going next? Where, I'm going to not call it your category, but you really are one of the world's, the North America's leading influencers in this category. Where are you taking us next with this all? I mean, clearly you give us restaurant quality that we can acquire at any number of outlets, like you mentioned, the grocery stores and Whole Foods and Amazon. But where are we going next?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's just, for so many years, I was hearing like Indian's going to be the next big trend. And it just never would popped like that, right? It just,
of course it has. It's not a trend, Indian food.
Exactly. It just is, right? It's just,
yeah. I literally made curry chicken the other day for my kids.
Yeah.
So easily. I did use coconut milk, so I kind of tied it up a little bit.
Okay.
You like I said, tied it up, Jen? Get that? THAI? Yeah. But I literally took the paste, right? I mean, I didn't make the paste. I took the paste and I put it with the coconut, the white part of the coconut milk.
Yeah.
And then I threw the chicken in, and the kids went bonkers. They loved it.
That's great. I think that it's finally really changing. I mean, Indian is the fastest growing. I mean, the whole, as you guys know, I mean, this is your business to know this stuff, but right, the international category is just growing like the fastest growing category, and within it, Indian is the fastest growing cuisine. So, but it's been a slow build.
Right.
But I do feel like now, especially that people are like purposefully, pantry loading, they're like really trying to figure out how to make that pantry full of things that are going to be interesting. And so instead of like opening up the fridge to look, what am I going to eat? They're like opening up their pantry because it's just jammed with a lot and a lot of options that make sense are international foods.
As well as the vegans. What about the vegetarians? That's where, so we talked a little bit, my best friend was a vegetarian for a long, Mike Tyson was a very famous vegetarian for a long time. He would eat probably Indian food 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah. Right? It was amazing because that's what there is.
Indian food it just offers so many things to so many kinds of people, right? If you eat meat, if you don't eat meat, if you eat wheat, if you don't eat wheat, if you're vegan, like you can just, there are so many delicious options that's part of, I think, why it's starting to come to more and more people's attention, is they realize that they're not sacrificing anything when they're eating Indian food. It's still like a super fulfilling experience, even if there's no wheat or meat or dairy or any, like you take all that out and you still have a great meal. So I do think it's,
and Maya, we have to cut this off because I know you've got to go in just a couple of minutes, but I want to make sure you tell everybody there's so many items in your line and they are pantry friendly and shelf stable. Can you hold up a couple of packages for us so we can see what they look like?
So, So this is the sauce, just simmer sauces. You just add whatever you like. You can add chicken or chickpeas or cauliflower or whatever, your favorite ingredient is, and add the sauce, simmer it together, and that's your entree. That's your main meal. Or if you want, there's dal. This is just like protein, delicious. This one's green garbanzos. It has corn in it and other lentils. So this is like a very flavorful bean option. We also have rice. I forgot to bring that out, and then we're just launching a chickpea line, which is just 4 different flavors of really yummy chickpea curries. So and we make spicy ketchup, which is awesome. You should have it.
We're waiting for a care package. I smell care package, Jen. Care package.
We'll take care of you.
Before we let her go, I want to point out, Michael, that when we talk about the confluence, Indian food and Maya Kamal's line of foods in particular is something that you will see at Fancy Food Show. You will see it at the grocery show. You'll see it at the Natural Food Show. It is really one of those remarkable lines that has multiple lives, because it really does, as they say in Italian, così fan tutti, there really is something for everybody.
Ooh, say that again before we
That's
go.
so nice.
Can she say that again, Maya? I'm looking.
He makes fun of me so much. Listen, Maya, before we let you go,
Così fan tutte.
we like to thank our friends in the business that come and spend time with us. You shared pictures of your family with us. Many of these recipes come from your tradition with your dad. Is there something that you say in your family, the way I saw you with Julia Child? Of course, she's famous for saying bon appetit. Do you have something that you say like bon appetit?
Oh, I would just, namaste would be, it's just the ultimate sort of greeting and wishing you well. So that would be it.
And before I let you go, I want to say, if you really want to get your kids interested in food, one of the wonderful things you can do by having prepared sauces and prepared dishes like these is you can teach your kids to cook with a very successful result. One of the ways you can do this is by having them prepare the vegetables or prepare the rice that goes with these sauces, or if you choose a protein or another ingredient. This is like a success kit for kids to get involved in cooking at home and tasting through. Think of that line like a virtual grocery store buffet. So instead of going up with your plate, you go up with your shopping cart and you try one of this and one of this to see what you like best. In that, I think Maya Kamal has been genius in what she's developed.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Maya, for giving us the time. I know you're busy with the kids and everybody.
So we appreciate this. It was really fun talking to you guys. Thank you.
And Michael, I want to tell you too, those sauces, our mutual friend Raghavan Iyer has started a sort of a fusion. I hate that word, but I'm going to use it. An Indian pizza restaurant in Minneapolis. And if you wanted to go and take some of these sauces and take the pizza dough that you buy at the grocery store, and instead of making red tomato sauce and mozzarella cheese, imagine taking some of these beautiful Maya Kamal sauces and making Maya Kamal pizzas with your kids.
Ooh, we're doing it. We're doing it, Maya Kamal, and we're going to get you back on. Let's get all the kids on one day. We'll have a kids show, pizza making kids show.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Isn't
so
she
sweet.
awesome?
Yeah, and I didn't even want to have her on. I'm just kidding. Sweet. I'm just kidding.
What makes
you made me
stuff like that? This honestly, I would be tuning in because I never know what's going to come out of your mouth.
I can't wait for the Maya Kamal care package. It's very exciting.
You will. I know.
I'm going to do the pizza though. Next time you come over, you can do the pizza for the kids.
It's a great idea, and
like
it's
a butter, like what? A butter, like a tiki masala pizza, or a vindaloo.
Take your favorite pizza ingredients and just instead of using red sauce, use these wonderful sauces you
How
make.
fun. Let's not tell everyone. That could be a great idea. I could be Gandhi Pizza Company could be coming out of this, and it could be owned by Michael Politz.
But our magnificent friend Raghavan Iyer has already done it.
I don't know, so it doesn't matter. I didn't steal the idea.
Next up on the show with us is one of my favorite people.
Well, that's not a good way to start.
You gave me the assignment and said, what the hell's going on in California?
I did.
And said, go find somebody. We've got to figure out. And I have a few friends in California. One in particular, who's our next guest.
Mm-hmm.
He is the West Coast brand ambassador, whiskey ambassador for the Bacardi family, whose brands include, in addition to the magnificent rums, the Teeling Irish whiskey and the Alberfeldy Scots whiskey. And as I will point out to you, a wee dram to finish out the week.
I hate that, Jen.
What?
Anything. When you put apple juice up and tell me that it's somebody's whiskey, it's adorable.
I know. I'm so.
It's so Dean Martin of you.
How about I get a match and I light it?
How about I bring Drew in and we can keep this banter alive?
How about I put a match to this and show you that it's not apple juice? But that's beside
my God. Let's
Drew Record is joining us now from his favorite bar stool in his favorite watering hole in California, to talk about actually what's going on in California and to give us some updates about what's happening with the governor and with the restaurants, and are they open or are they open? And I feel like, you and I have been getting conflicting messages for weeks, but in particular this week, we've got a lot of conflicting messages. Are we open? Are we not? Restaurants versus bars. Are the rules the same? What is going on? Drew Record, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Yes, Drew.
You. Drew, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
What's going on?
Drew, you can thank me too, Jennifer. Why did you just say I'm doing well, Jennifer? I don't know what. I'm in a mood today. It's Friday. Did you notice that? I'm here with the kids all by myself.
It's Friday of a 3-day weekend.
Drew, it's Friday. Drew, what? Is it a 3-day weekend? I don't even know what that means anymore. What do you mean?
It's Memorial Day weekend, silly.
Silly, I understand.
You get the weekend from home on Monday, right?
Do we do that? Do we get to not have to go home on Monday? Thank you. Wait, Jennifer, does that mean we don't have a show on Monday?
We have a great show on Monday.
Oh, my God. Jennifer, it's a holiday. Madonna even said holiday.
One of my favorite bars in New York, Holiday.
Holiday. Oh, all right.
What am I going to do with you? I love it. Drew, I love you. I've known you a long time. I've watched you grow up in this business. I'm extraordinarily proud of you. And when you spread your wings and took your career and your incredible palate to the West Coast, you landed at one of the foremost buzzy, successful, exciting places at the time in the greater Bay Area, and have had subsequent careers at even more buzzy, fun, award-winning places. Talk a little bit about you, just to let people know who you are.
Yeah, so I started as a singing bartender in college just to make ends meet, and here I am now in San Francisco, and moved out here about 6 years ago and worked with the Natimius Group at Central Kitchen, and right next door to the illustrious Trick Dog Bar. Got involved with the Bon Vivants guys there from Trick Dog, and helped open a hotel with them, San Francisco proper. That was an amazing experience. We opened 3 bars and restaurants in a historic space in the middle of mid-market San Francisco, and that hotel was nominated for Tales of the Cocktail Spirited Award for Best American Hotel Bar, and that felt like a nice little feather in the cap. And then Bacardi came around and said, well, hey, do you want to go on the road and start talking about whiskey? And I said, absolutely. So that's where I am today, being able to spread the love of this fantastic whiskey portfolio around the West Coast of America.
They've done an extraordinary job of curating together brands with histories and traditions that really represent the full rainbow of whiskey expression globally. Can you give us an update very quickly about where we are in whiskey at this moment?
Yeah, whiskey is in a great spot, right? Brown spirits have been, growing over the last several years. There's been a huge boom in bourbon, a big boom in Japanese whiskey, and with that, it's been a rising tide for all whiskey, right? So people are digging back into the history of Scotch and getting into Irish whiskey, and we're in a really unique space because, like you said, we have both the history of it and the innovative side. So on the history side, we've got a brand like Aberfeldy that was founded by Tommy Dewar and John Dewar, one of the historic Scotch grocers that really started blending. And on the innovative side, we've got the Teeling boys and Alex Chasko, who's been innovating in Irish whiskey in a way that no one has really been innovating, right? One of the first new distilleries to open in Dublin in 125 years. And so we've got these two sides of things. It's really great to be able to represent these beautiful whiskeys.
Some interesting things have been happening since the pandemic hit. Can you talk a little bit about spirits in general during the last few months? Because some really notable things have happened. The bars have closed, but that didn't stop us.
No, so the latest Nielsen numbers, alcohol consumption in the United States is up, 12% or so. So people aren't drinking in bars and restaurants, obviously, because they're all closed, but they're still drinking, right? And so we're seeing a couple of different trends. We're seeing folks going into their cellars and finding things that maybe been sitting there for a rainy day, and today's that rainy day. And the other thing that I'm seeing that's really exciting, and I hope, frankly, it gets to stick around, is you've got all of these different states, California being one of them, that have allowed to-go cocktails to be part of the landscape for the first time, right? Outside of Las Vegas and
New Orleans,
and had a few markets here and there that to-go liquor, but it's right. Most states said no, consume in this little set forth parcel of land, and you can't take that to go. And so now this whole new market has opened up where bars and restaurants are allowed to put together beautiful, innovative cocktails, small cocktails, large cocktails, and people can pick them up. They can get delivered to your house. It's a whole new world out there.
And California is one of the places where that's happening.
Yeah, we've been watching this, right, moment by moment as the whole pandemic has been unfolding, and I've got colleagues all around the world, and I'm on daily and weekly calls, with folks from the London office, from the Miami office, from New York, and so I get this really unique perspective. New York was one of the first to allow to-go cocktails, and we were crossing our fingers here in California, and a few days later, California unveiled its to-go cocktails. And one of the big unanswered questions right now is how long will it last, right? When restaurants begin to reopen, are they going to clamp back down on to-go cocktails, or is this going to be a permanent part of the landscape? We don't know that. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, he's got a background in bars and restaurants, right? A few of my favorite spots in town, he used to own. He had to divest himself when he became governor, but those bars are still there, right? And so it's an industry that's near and dear to his heart. So our hope is that it continues to be a part of the landscape, but we don't have that answer yet.
We are toasting and tippling through this experience in ways that are telling us a lot about what's important and where we're going. What is it telling us about what's important, and what's it telling us about where we're going?
Well, the thing that drew me to hospitality all those years ago are the people, right? And that's still what's the most important for all of us. It's celebrating all of the small moments with the people who are nearest and dearest to us. And if we can't do that across the bar, it's finding ways of doing that in our own homes. A social distanced happy hour, right? With, chairs set at 6 feet, apart in a park or someone's driveway. That brief interaction, being able to still go to your favorite bar or restaurant and pick up, that cocktail and a bite to eat, and still being able to share those moments. It's really about the humanity. We have a feed that unfortunately, we get news on the restaurants and the bars that are closing, every day permanently. And the thing that's been so devastating for us is just the human aspect of all of that, right? These are our friends. These are our colleagues. I was in operations for 13 years before I got onto the supply side of things, and I'm lucky to still have a job today in the middle of all this. But a lot of my friends and colleagues aren't so lucky right now, and so really what's the most important thing is finding this time, finding these moments to still share some humanity, with a glass, with our friends and neighbors.
What is open and what's not open, and what is the mandate, and is it by city, county, state? Who's deciding what's open in California right now?
All of the above, Jennifer. So the governor put out a several-page long document about the next steps and what restaurant opening will look like. The counties and the cities, depending, they all have their own plans as well. So up here in the Bay where I am, the mayor of San Francisco, the mayor of Oakland, and the Bay Area counties, they have a coalition that they're all going to work together. So with the city of Berkeley and all the surrounding counties, we're all working together. And one of the things that you're seeing is actually a shift to opening up more outdoor spaces. And so originally we had thought that we were going to see a reduction in capacity when restaurants reopen. And we haven't heard anything about reduction in capacity from the governor.
Like
what we've heard about,
right, like in other jurisdictions where they're saying you have to go to 50% capacity.
Right.
That's right.
Instead, we're talking about social distancing. We're talking about responsible distancing. And so what that looks like for restaurants in California from the roadmap at the moment is either physical barriers and space between the seating, right? So you've got to put something in between, you know, booth 1 and booth 2, or you've got to separate.
Curtain or plexi or something.
Yeah, a curtain, a partition, you know, whatever that looks like. You know, people are taking it different ways. But the big push, and this is what's exciting, is that, you know, Berkeley really led the charge, and San Francisco's getting on board too, with allowing open outdoor space to be converted to usable restaurant space, right? So being able to shut down sidewalks, streets, parking lots, and being able to put tables out there, move tables from inside to out, because of, you know, what we know about, you know, transmission spread outside versus in. These are all things that I think are going to become part of the fabric. And we actually saw the California, the ABC, the folks that control the liquor department, are putting forms together in place for restaurant operators to you know, be able to expand their footprint, right? And say, hey, this is what our new patio is going to look like. And so this is great news. The unanswered questions that we still have: when is this going to happen? It's, you know, it's all based on each county or each city hitting certain metrics, right? Not having so many new cases per 10,000, you know, individuals, you know, still having capacity in the hospitals. These are all the unanswered questions. And the big one for me and a lot of my friends is that this all pertains to restaurants, and they haven't answered what we're doing for bars. So if you don't have a license to sell food and booze together, they still haven't really said what you can do. There's a caveat where a bar can partner with a food truck. And so bars and food trucks partner together and open back up, which is great. But, you know, if you don't have the space for the food truck, you know, what are you going to do as a bar operator? So that's the really big unanswered question in California.
Are people in California bringing their own personal metal straws, bringing their own drinks, glassware? What are people doing? Are they bringing their own flatware? Are they bringing their own, you know, fork, knife, and spoon?
It's interesting. So, you know, we saw this big push, right, in the months before this all happened. You know, San Francisco had banned plastic straws. Single-use items were, you know, being charged. There was going to go into effect a mandated extra charge on to-go boxes, right, for restaurants in the Bay Area. And all of these things have been, you know, pushed aside. You know, when I go to the grocery store, I'm not allowed to bring my reusable bags. You know, I have to use the store bag, right? And so, you know, it's one of the things that, you know, as a company, you know, Bacardi, we're very committed to the environmental impact, right? We want to look at our single-use plastics and how we are on a daily basis, you know, impacting the environment. And so, you know, reusable glass, reusable, you know, is certainly a way that we want to go for packaging with the bars. But some of that, the supply chain is broken down. You know, when my bars reached out to me and said, hey, I'm doing cocktails to go, do you know anyone that's got glassware? I said, yeah, I've got 3 vendors. And as soon as I reached out to those 3 vendors, all 3 of them told me it would take 2 months to get a shipment that normally would have taken a week and a half, because they were a non-essential, right? And so then we all went to the next available, which was, you know, a company that had available plastic containers. And that worked for about 2 weeks until everyone bought them out of their supply. Right. And then California was out of these plastic containers, the kind that you would use for juice bottles, right? And so we've constantly been looking for new streams of to-go items. It's really been, you know, trying to stay ahead of the curve has been hard.
And it's so interesting that a company like Bacardi would be one of the parties involved in this, because we can look back at the history and the extraordinary families that have been part of this legacy from Don Facundo Bacardi, going back to those days when the demijohns were covered in wicker and reused and refilled. I mean, there may be lessons from the past for our future. It's very interesting. And of course, places are using those pouches. But if you go around the world, there are places all over Asia where you can get your to-go drink in a bag.
Yeah, my favorite innovative vessel that I've seen is, you know, just the plastic deli containers that you would get potato salad or, you know, take out soup in, right? And so you've got a quart container with a lid, and they just, you know, cut a hole in the middle, you stick a straw in it, and you've got yourself a, you know, one darn big sippy cup. And I'm sure anyone who's watching the show who's, you know, a line cook, they're familiar with drinking out of deli cups, because that's usually, you know, what you have on the line. But everyone's finding whatever ways they can to innovate, right?
Yeah.
It's a matter of we're all in this together, and so we've got to figure out what works.
But Drew, when you go and you get a boba, isn't it always in a deli container? Honestly, I mean, isn't it like a deli container, that boba, right? Jennifer, have you had a boba?
No, I have not.
I get double boba balls, and I get a jelly leche. It is so unbelievable. And I'm just thinking, you know what? It's in a deli container. I always go, this is a ridiculous thing to drink out of. And you're drinking. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? You're like, you become very, what's that called, Jennifer? When you go back in time, you're caveman. Good caveman, it's like drinking out. It's so unsophisticated. Very different from what Drew is.
My favorite place up in Vancouver is the Zivas tea, and they do a hot fruit tea with and without the boba bubble in the bottom.
Do they do it without the fruit?
No, you got to have the. It's an insane.
That would be the oxymoron: a hot fruit tea, no fruit.
It's no. You I've got to take you there, and then they do the little bubble waffle, but that's another story. But I love. I get my tapioca pearls in slushies, like my mango slushie.
All right, she's from Drew. She's trying to act like she's never heard of it. Look at her; she knows what's going on. She's got her warm tapioca pearl. She's got the words down, pearls. She's got the vernacular. You could right now, Jennifer, walk out of that place, start serving honeydew melon bobas.
That's true.
With a little bit of Bacardi.
Drew Record is our guest. He joins us from his favorite watering hole in the Bay.
What hole is that, Drew?
Well, luckily I've been preparing for a zombie apocalypse with lots and lots of booze for a very long time, and so I've been well supplied, during this quarantine. It's also given me a chance to dust off some of my favorite bottles from the cellar that I went, no, I don't need to drink those. And I was like, now's the time.
One of my friends is in San Francisco, a guy named Stephen Jenkins, and he's got a little tiny band called Third Eye Blind. and he's created a tequila called Summer Gods. Have you tried it yet? The Blanco?
I haven't gotten a chance to, but it seems like every day there's a new spirit on the market. There's certainly a taste for it.
I thought that, and just generally everyone's getting into the space, right? This is the most, and Stephen, everything he does is precise, right? That's the best word I could use for him. We'll have him on the show soon. I'm going to connect you guys. I want you to, this is the most incredible Blanco, the way it's sourced. He literally went to Mexico. He didn't just slap his name on it because his name isn't really on it. It's just called Summer Gods, right? But he really wanted to build the best Blanco tequila for his buddies when they're out surfing and the luxury lifestyle to drink. And I'm going to connect you guys because I think I would love to have you try that with him. Well,
that's I'm always looking to try a new agave spirit. I mean, it'll be hard to beat Cazadores or Patron in the love of my heart, but I'm always happy to try a new spirit.
Well, that'll be exciting.
Drew, before we let you go, because Drew's actually a wonderful writer, and he's a poet, among other things. He's a true artist. He's a Renaissance man, as you've probably been able to tell. But before we let you go, do you have a toast that you can share with us from the Alberfeldy tradition that might be appropriate for this time?
Well, when I first took the job, I dove pretty deeply into the poetry of Bobby Burns, Robert Burns, the national poet of Scotland, and really the themes that come up throughout so much of his writing is about the beauty of nature and about the beauty of human connection, right? And so the things that I would leave you with. I had to close the blinds behind me here, because otherwise it was too glare. But I have a lovely Japanese red oak out in the yard there, and in the middle of calls, if I'm starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed, I just like to look at that tree and see the leaves fluttering in the breeze and changing from the dark red on the one side to the lighter red. I think just taking a moment to look at the natural splendor around you, finding something that you can see beauty in, and it's a good way to center yourself.
Drew Record is one of my all-time favorite people on the planet. Now you can see why. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Drew.
Cheers.
Thank you, Drew. You're amazing. And thank you for being friends with Jennifer, Drew.
Oh, I'm still waiting for that check in the mail to be friends, right?
I feel like I don't want to be the only one. So thank you. Jen,
no, I've loved being friends with Jennifer for a very long time.
Yeah. Have you known Drew as long as you've known me, Jen?
I've known Drew a very long time. I've really watched him grow up in this business. I'm so old, I can tell you that it might not have been legal when I first met you.
What? Okay, this conversation's going south. Wait, I was legal when you first met me.
You were.
But thank you, Drew. We're going to stay in touch, and we're going to keep checking in with you periodically, if you don't mind.
And
yeah, absolutely.
Could you shave, though, for next time? I'd like to have clean-shaven men on my show.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Go ahead,
got
Jen.
that whiskey lumberjack shirt on, though. I love it. Drew, thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Love you. Stay safe.
What a good guy.
What
I would say that. I can't wait till he gets rid of a guest, and I go, what a jerk.
But you don't mean it.
Well, I will then, but who's that going to be?
Men. You can't help yourself.
I'm sure there's jerks out there. We got to find one. Jerk alert.
No. I do a lot of work to make sure those.
Who's Ken Rizzolo?
Hey, I love Ken Rizzolo. How are you? He's a great chef. He's in California. I'm glad he found us. How are you? I'm so happy to see you. We've got to have him on. He needs to have his own show. Maybe he does, and I just didn't know about it yet. But we got to have him on. Hey, Ken, and everybody, I'll tell everybody this. It's a long weekend. I'd love to hear from you. My email is Michael. Can you put this on? Ken, take this down.
I'm scared, Jennifer. I don't want all these handsome guys reaching out to you.
He is so, and actually, it's funny. I was thinking of him the other day because I have a friend who has a Moto Guzzi, rare Moto Guzzi Le Mans motorcycle, and I was thinking of Ken.
What? That's why. And now there he is. Here.
He's
you want your Spirits Kitchen? Spirits Kitchen?
So it's spiritskitchen@gmail.com.
All right. There's Jennifer's email address. Men, I don't want anyone to start calling her and asking her out. Too much. Uh-oh. Ken said friend me.
I will.
I don't like where this is going.
How can you not? This is the conviviality of the industry we're in. This is our.
Oh, now it's getting even. Now Ken's going to the slide into. He meant slide into my DMs, Jennifer. Friend request me and then slide into my DMs. What is going on? My God.
You know it's funny, Michael. When he comes on the show, you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, you were right. We needed to have him come on."
Listen, I can't believe Drew was so great, and Maya. I loved her today.
These are our friends.
We had a great show.
You sound surprised.
I'm not surprised. I mean, we've had a very busy day. Look, I'm not going to lie. I've been going off air to change a poopies from a 3-year-old and coming back on. And then Instagram showed up. And then my wife is out doing something with her father. I got all the kids screaming at me. I got someone working on the washer and dryer right now. I can't even tell you what's going on.
I'll remind you and everyone that's with us.
How am I doing? Would you even know I was under that kind of pressure today? And I'm returning emails.
I will remind everybody that if you can, hug your kids, count your blessings, and tune in next week. Have a really safe and fun, and delicious Memorial Day weekend.
And we'll see you Memorial Day, is what you're saying?
Memorial Day. We're going to have a Memorial Day special.
So you want me to work on a holiday?
I'll work.
Are we getting time and a half?
I don't know. You're the boss.
Well, we get 0, so I'm assuming 0. Sure.
You get 0 and a half.
Yeah, send it through. All right, Jen. Have a great weekend. Thank you, my dear.